We are leaving Kargil on National Highway 1 on the final leg of our road trip across the Himalayan highways of northwest India. We are bound for Srinagar in Kashmir and the beautiful Dal Lake, which in the past was the destination of Mughal emperors, the rulers of the British Raj, and in the late 1960s a stopover for hippies on the overland trail to Goa or Kathmandu. But there is a problem that has been festering since the partition of British India in 1947. It is the territorial conflict between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. It is now the 70th anniversary of the partition of British India into modern-day India and Pakistan. The disputed line of control between the two nations is heavily militarized, and it runs perilously close to the only road between Ladakh and Kashmir, the road we are on now. The latest flare-up of hostilities was around Dras in the Kargil region in 1999, and that's just where we're going. We need special permits from the Indian Border Security Force to enter the area, and the British Foreign Office does not recommend travel to the region. We arrive at the Kargil War Memorial in Dras, which commemorates the 1999 battle. Indian soldiers enact a solemn ceremony of remembrance for fallen comrades below the 18,000-foot-high Tiger Hill ridgeline, from where Pakistani forces bombarded National Highway 1. The intention of their attack was to isolate Ladakh from Kashmir so that Pakistan could pursue its territorial ambitions in Kashmir. This local high-altitude war had an alarming international significance. Both India and Pakistan were and are nuclear powers. Under international pressure, the conflict was terminated, but the underlying issues were not resolved. We drive on, climbing ever higher into the western end of the greater Himalayan range that buttresses the Tibetan plateau from the Punjab and the Kashmir Valley. The further west we go, the more the monsoon rain clouds from the lowlands invade the mountain valleys. After yet another police checkpost, we enter the Zoji Pass, the summit of the vital link between Ladakh and Kashmir. The weather closes in. The road is closed by snowdrifts during the winter. We eventually arrive at a fork in the road at the 11,500-foot summit. At this point, there is a sheer 1,000-foot drop to the valley floor beneath, and the mountainside is too steep for a road wide enough for two carriageways, so it splits into two single carriageways. The upper road is better, as there is an informal one-way system in operation whereby lorries only start using the upper road in the Kargil direction after mid-morning, so that vehicles bound for Kashmir can use this faster upper road earlier, without encountering any large vehicles coming in the opposite direction. We arrive at the fork in the road in time as our driver thinks to use the upper road. When we see a convoy of lorries bearing down on us in the opposite direction, we realise we are too late. There is only one thing for it, to turn around. There then follows a couple of manoeuvres that have us gripping our seats with white knuckles as our driver undertakes 2 3-point turns on the edge of a 1,000-foot precipice with no crash barriers.
Good luck.
Halfway down on the other side, the clouds part to reveal in the valley below an enormous campsite on the scale of a music festival. But this is no rock concert. It is the base for Hindu pilgrims visiting the Amarnath cave, a holy shrine which contains an ice stalagmite believed to represent the image of Shiva, one of the principal deities of Hinduism. The shrine is only accessible for a short period during the summer months. For the rest of the year, it is covered in snow. We continue our descent into the Kashmir Valley, following the upper waters of the Sindh River, which at this point is a raging torrent, augmented by monsoon rain as well as melting snow. As we near Srinagar, we become uncomfortably aware of the presence of Indian security forces, and our passage through to the Dal Lake is delayed by roadblocks and negotiations with local officers of the Indian Border Security Force, the Jammu and Kashmir Police, and the Central Reserve Police Force. With armed security personnel every 100 metres or so, filming is not a good idea. We later learnt that this heightened level of security was because Hindu pilgrims on their way to the Amarnath cave had been killed by militant Kashmiri separatists. We eventually arrive at the Dal Lake. The mood changes from nervous apprehension to tranquility as we are transferred by our shikara to our palatial houseboat in the secluded backwater of Dal Lake. The houseboats of Dal Lake are an inheritance from the British Raj. The British colonial officials were drawn to the cooler climate of Kashmir in the summer months to escape from the heat of the lowlands, but the Maharaja of Kashmir prevented them from building houses around the lake. They got around this restriction by building lavish houseboats instead, made from local cedarwood. These emblems of the Raj have survived into modern India as desirable holiday retreats for both local and international travellers. We are left in no doubt that we are no longer in a land of Tibetan Buddhism, as the sounds of the muezzin waft across the lake from the surrounding mosques. We arise early to visit the floating market, where gardeners, all men, gather to sell their produce, including squash, aubergines, water spinach, celeriac, tomatoes and cabbages, to local shopkeepers and restaurant owners. As we watch, a lone canoe paddled by a woman approaches the gathering. Is she coming to participate in the lively trade going on? No. Her canoe is laden with animal fodder harvested from the abundant lotus and lily patches out on the lake, and her cargo is destined for farms elsewhere. On the slopes leading down from the mountains surrounding the lake are a series of ornamental gardens, created not by the British, but by a much earlier colonial power, the Persians. The Mughal emperors also found Kashmir an attractive destination for rest and recreation. Emperor Jahangir and his son Shah Jahan were mainly responsible for the construction of these gardens during the 15th and 16th centuries. The gardens are an attraction for local tourists who enjoy dressing up as emperors and empresses to have their photos taken. It takes over an hour at the leisurely pace of a shikara to paddle from the houseboat moorings to the Hazratbal shrine on the opposite shore of the lake. It is considered to be Kashmir's holiest Muslim shrine. In the bustling market nearby, traditional Kashmiri lavasa bread is being cooked. Unlike flatbreads cooked in a tandoor, this variety is deep fried in hot oil.
Kashmiri halwa paratha.
A family of brush makers from Rajasthan have travelled halfway across India to try and make a living selling their wares in Kashmir. The sight of one of the boys struggling through the crowds with his brushes is reminiscent of a Victorian novel about chimney sweeps, a latter-day Indian water baby. As the Shikara returns us to our houseboat on a day when the nearby city of Srinagar is in lockdown after another security incident caused by clashes between Indian security forces and Kashmiri protesters, it is time to ponder Kashmir's Catch-22 predicament. The state of Jammu and Kashmir, which includes Ladakh, is granted special semi-autonomous status, under which all other provisions of the constitution do not apply. So, for example, Indian citizens from other states cannot purchase land or property in Jammu and Kashmir. It is tacitly accepted that if Kashmir was a state on its own, ceding it to Pakistan might be politically acceptable. But it is one province of a state that also includes Jammu and Ladakh, and there is a three-way political split between those residents of the state that are pro-Pakistan, pro-India and pro-independence. It would be politically impossible for the state government to vote for splitting the state to allow the province of Kashmir to go its own way, as the state legislature has a majority of Ladakh and Jammu delegates in favour of retaining the status quo. So the impasse continues, and it is in the interests of certain local politicians to keep the unrest bubbling away. The sun sets behind Hari Parvat, a hill dominating the skyline of the Kashmiri capital of Srinagar. Hari Parvat is the location of the Sharika temple, a Hindu deity. It is 2017, the 70th anniversary of partition of British India into Pakistan and to modern-day India. Today, this predominantly Muslim city is in lockdown. One can only regret this intractable legacy of the British Raj. Lake Dal is the final destination of our remarkable trip across the highways of the Himalayas. It's been quite a trip.